jellies and jellyfish, fumbles of all sizes. Welcome back to A.S.K's videos! You might notice I sound pretty eager and hysterical, and that is because I just got around seeing the Hey Arnold Jungle movie. I have been following the news for this movie literally since it got announced, which you would know about if you follow my website. I have had many embarrassing fails, like the fact that I live in Canada, and here, Thanksgiving was October 8th this year, and I mistook that day for the release of the movie, since it came out on Thanksgiving in the United States, respectively. So, I got humiliated there. I have officially erased that, but if you want to have links to videos and upcoming news and projects, and, of course, spoilers for future videos, I'll recommend my website. Its link is in the description below. Now, you will notice that the earbuds, or if you don't know, my avatar, isn't really changing, and that is just because of purity of speech, and so I don't have to edit this video so long it comes out next week. Also, it's partially because of rendering issues, and most likely just my laziness. Also, this video's reviewing will not be scripted. That is just because it'll take too long, and I won't express my real emotion. Kind of like the whole earbuds thing I just mentioned. I have been a fan of Hey Arnold for a long time, since literally the beginning, so reviewing it should be fun. Anyways, let's get into this super fantabulistic and long prolonged movie review of Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. Oh yeah. Plot! So the plot of this movie, or the basic premise of this movie, I guess you could say, is that Arnold and his class have to go to San Lorenzo through a convenient class contest, which I'll get to eventually, to find his missing parents, and obviously as a field trip, but mostly to find his missing parents with Helga and Gerald. I like how they bring the map up after it was last talked about in the journal as a cliffhanger and hasn't been talked about for 15 years. There have been so many how you could say, I guess, conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff, and I'm well aware that this movie managed to take that map and take it into the main focus of this movie, and I adored this. Usually, I didn't really like the parent episodes of Hey Arnold in the show because they were all just a bit too sad, and Arnold just felt so sad, and I don't know, I personally didn't like it, not because he was really sad, but more, I don't know, it's just my personal preference. But this movie managed to make me change my mind completely. So I like how this movie starts with in a dream. It starts out in a dream where Arnold is going and seeing his parents for the first time, and then he wakes up while the parents fly away with Eduardo, the guy who kept bringing them back to San Lorenzo to do all the stuff they, always did. So, I like that it started out with that dream. I think it really fits. Now, I like how going to San Lorenzo through the class contest was very, very convenient. I really liked how they did this, and it provided a good setting and the rest of the plot of the movie through something as innocent as a class contest. So kudos to the writers for that. Another thing I really like about this episode is that there are a lot of fails. Now, I know a lot of movies do this, and I admire that. When you have something so close to you, but you ultimately fail at it, it makes you feel worse about it, and it makes you want to reach more. It brings the giving up aspect, and brings characters and plots together to form one big package that you would call a movie. I think the failing in this movie is very nicely done, and I think all the attempts they do, like, by the way, there will be spoilers, like killing Sombra, or trying to shoot the video to go to San Lorenzo in the first place, or even trying to get out of the jail that Arnold ends up getting the guys in through the Sombra's evil plan. They all have fails, but that's why it's interesting. It builds up some excitement, and you actually want to see what happens. And I really like that about this movie. Now let's talk about characters. I'm gonna go through about 3 or 4 characters just here, because I think the main part about this movie is Arnold, Helga, Grandpa, and then there's all the other characters who just join in and, fill some concrete into the cracks of the bricks. I think Arnold and Helga really make this movie. Let's start with Arnold. Arnold, what I really didn't like in the show, and I should have included this in my top 3 biggest problems with Hey Arnold video, is that Arnold was really nosy in some episodes. Some episodes, he just acted like a suck-up, I should say. A suck-up to every little problem there was with people, and he was really nosy in other people's business, and he tried to help everyone, even when it wasn't really his choice or his place to do that. An example would be in the episode Coach Wittenberg. I don't know if that's the actual episode, or maybe it's something else, but one of those episodes with Coach Wittenberg, while Tish and Coach argue, Arnold's just standing there in the background and being nosy and trying to help them. I do realize that Arnold is supposed to be a Mary Sue kind of character, not that kind, but you know what I'm talking about. A Mary Sue character that is always doing the right thing and is kind of a Jesus kind of character, if you know what I mean, like Charlie from the reboot in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2005, that kind of character. And the second thing I like about Arnold in this, the thing I liked about the first thing, the nosy thing, is in this movie, it doesn't show nosy Arnold. I really like Arnold in this movie because he only does what's for him. He only cares about his parents. He doesn't care about Helga's parents. That's just an example, and it sucks, but he doesn't care about other people and to be nosy about it. And it's good to care about other people, but to be that nosy is really annoying to some people, including myself. And in my opinion, him doing that in the show is not very good, and I think in this movie, they took Arnold's character through the roof. The second thing I want to hit on for Arnold is that he's very nice, smart, and Helga aware. Now, I'm going to go through here. By smart, I mean in this movie, Arnold is not dumb. He was never really dumb to begin with in the show, but here, he actually has common sense, and he actually uses that to help him in the conflicts. In the show, since it was 11-minute episodes, I don't think they really went for that because they didn't need to go for that. Because Arnold being smart and that kind of self-aware kind of thing isn't really needed. My favorite thing about Arnold in this movie is that he's Helga aware. That what I mean by that is even in the scenes like the ship scene where he just, dumps Helga and even causes her to throw away her locket which she's kept for her entire life, even in those scenes, Arnold is not an idiot. In the show, what I really hated was that Arnold never really paid attention to Helga trying to tell him that she loved him. Even in the first movie, when she did do that to Arnold, Arnold was so sad and it was so mean to Helga. And also in episodes like Married, the special in the actual show, and I think it was the last season. And it's just, you feel really bad for Helga, but in this movie, they escalated Arnold's character to actually smart, and he knows what Helga's talking about. This is a very small and nitpicky third thing. But Arnold's character, and this is a negative thing, by the way, Arnold's character is way better in this movie. I'll say that about his parents and everything. But really, in the great aspect of life, and I'm not trying to offend anybody who doesn't have parents or their parents passed away or anything like that, but in this movie, or in the show in general, Arnold is always really close-minded. He's always thinking that maybe his parents are still alive and all that stuff, when really, in the great aspect of life, it's never gonna happen. Now, I do realize this for the plot, and that's why I mentioned that this is only a small nitpick. So, yeah, I think I'm done with Arnold here. Well, let's go to Helga. There was one episode in Hey Arnold, the show, that really shined Helga's character. And that episode, well, I guess there's two, but one of those episodes, and this is smaller, is what was the It Girl. It managed to keep her main character focused and still have Helga be Helga while getting the Arnold relationship in the background. The second thing, and most important, and my favorite, was Summer Love. Now that special was really, really good, and Helga's character was probably my favorite thing out of all the favorite things I had about that special. Now, in this movie, Helga is amazing. She does everything to get Arnold's parents back. Heck, I think she even does more than Arnold himself. Now, Arnold does do a bit more in the background, but that's only because he's the main character, and we can't have Helga pick her nose into Arnold's business when he and Eduardo, in quotation marks, I'm talking about the Somber who is undercover, they talk together, and she can't really do anything about that. But in the great scheme of going and actually doing everything, Helga does everything. She has the heart at the end that unlocks and actually saves Arnold's parents. She unlocks a lot of passageways. Sure, she gets mad at Arnold, but that's only because, like, she was trying to tell him that he loves him. And I like that scene, not because that Helga's sad, but because later in the end of the movie, it's deeper. Arnold even mentions that scene, and they kiss. I'll get to that later on as in the review, which I'll come back to later. But that's what I'm trying to say. Helga's character is great in this movie. She deserves Arnold. She deserves everything she's gotten, and not in a bad way. Okay, so I think all the bad things she's gotten in this movie is just to move the plot, and I appreciate that they're not trying to go escalating off to La La Land when moving the plot. They're only doing it to move the plot. The third thing is that Helga is really sweet in this movie. Sure, she has her character of being, Helga, but she is sweet when she is sweet, and that's what I keep saying. So let's move on to the other characters and Grandpa. Now, these are really minor because I really like all the other characters in this movie. The only thing is the voice acting, which I will get to eventually in this review. But I think all the characters are great. Grandpa is super funny, but he doesn't really get too many lines. So, yeah, that's enough for that. 10 seconds, here I come. The third thing is the animation. Wow, that was a screwed up voice, but anyway. So, the animation in this movie was spectacular beyond anything I can comprehend. So I watched this, not when it aired or whatever. I lived in Canada. It's a big, I hate it. I can't watch anything, but I watched it on a website, and whenever you turn it up, like the pixels, it gets really messed up. So the highest I saw was 720 when I think it goes up to 1080, maybe even higher. So I saw, what I saw was amazing, so I can just only imagine how good it really was. But the animation was amazing. I like how they boosted everyone's clothes. They even mentioned that on like the Nickelodeon YouTube channel and behind the scenes before it even aired. I like how Arnold got the new hoodie. I think it looks very slick. Some characters got new shoes. Gerald went from the long sleeve shirt to, I think, the hoodie, I believe. And then, all the characters got little stuff. Like Helga, she got that sweater thing. I think they all got hoodies and change of shoes. But yeah, I think they all look really nice. The HD was spectacular, even when I didn't watch it in HD. And I think the style of Hey Arnold is great. They have a lot of shadows, which I adore. It really helps show 3D-ness, and it really shows off their how far they can go with this in the new world versus how far they could go back then when drawing a shadow meant going back and doing it for hours on end and just drawing a shadow around characters and erasing it all. It's the same thing now, but you get to show that off after time. So yeah, I really like that about this special. Let's get into the comedy. Wow, the comedy in Hey Arnold is great. And I'll tell you why. The comedy in Hey Arnold is very, very, very unique. It doesn't rely on slapstick. It doesn't rely on cheap butt and fart jokes. It doesn't even rely on anything like cliche jokes. It doesn't even have characters say jokes. The entire thing that holds the core of the comedy in this movie are the characters. They tell jokes with the characters and the demeanors and everything about the characters. They have comedy with the references they tell to the old thing and to new stuff, including when Olga says, "I'm king of the world" on the boat, which is a reference to the Titanic. Another thing they really do is Grandpa's character. They also really have comedy with Helga's love towards Arnold, which they've always had from the beginning on end. And like I said, they rely for their core of the comedy comes from this character jokes, from the character demeanors, from the character everything. All the classic comedy comes from them. For example, all the classic character jokes from Eugene as he gets hurt and he says, "I'm okay," or even Gerald. Gerald in the show was really funny. He says some very quirky lines, like in the episode Rich Kid, where Lorenzo comes, that rich kid, and he's like, "I have to study my Greek cards." Gerald's like, "Yeah, me too." It was really funny. Or Harold. Harold is always trying to go to the bathroom. He's always eating. He's always like, "I was hungry." Or Phoebe can show off her smartness. Helga can just be awkward. There's Arnold, but Arnold's never really that funny. And there's obviously, Sid and Stinky and all those other characters. Events. Now, this is the biggest and longest thing in this review. I'm going to list every event that happened, some jokes that happened, and a lot and lots of fan service. Okay? So let's go. So the first thing is the Abner bacon joke, where Abner eats some bacon, and it's funny because he's a pig. We all get it. So that's a joke that gets repeated at the end of the movie because they replay that. Yeah, we've all seen the Jungle movie if you're going to review. So yeah. Anyway, so the second thing is the obsolete beeper joke, "Hey Arnold," that Helga says. She apparently thinks beepers are obsolete and cell phones are better. And then Phoebe's like, "Well, it's an obsolete technology that's very good in our age and everything." And she's like, "Why not just have a cell phone?" Which is funny because back in the 90s when they made Hey Arnold, beepers were the thing. And now that they're making fun of that, it's kind of pretty funny. It's a reference to the old show and all that. The third thing is the classic run into Hey Arnold scene. So, if you don't know Hey Arnold, which you probably do because you're watching this video, there's always a scene in most Love episodes where Helga and Arnold and Phoebe and Gerald, obviously, they run into each other, mostly Helga and Arnold, and then Helga usually says something very mean to Arnold. I think she always says something very mean to Arnold, but I'm glad that they did that classic scene. And now I'm going to just all the references I saw to background in old characters that were, seen in older episodes in the show. So, some characters I saw were, drumroll please. Thank you. Monkey Man, Jamie-O's ex, Pigeon Man, the turtle that Arnold and his grandma save in the third episode from Field Trip, Mrs. Vitello, Torvald, Dino Spumoni, Don Reynolds, Mickey K-Line, Coach Wittenberg, Tish, the Jolly Ollie Man, Mr. Green, Harvey, Stoop Kid, Ruth, Chocolate Boy, Wolfgang, Olga, and Eduardo. These are all characters that repeat in this movie just as background models, and it is very good that they replay all of these. I can barely remember most of these characters, but I'm glad that they use this time to have some fan service to the fans who have been waiting years to see this movie replay. And even the music director Jim Lang passed away because they spent so long, and Nickelodeon had to hold this back for so long. The newest one is the next event is the multiple Brainy thing. So Brainy appears, I believe, either twice or three times in this movie. The first time is just when Helga is behind the trash can. I think it's a school, and then she just hits Brainy when she spies on him. And then there's also the second time in the jail where when Helga ripped up the locket with Arnold's picture on it after Arnold ran away from her, Brainy jumped into the lake and got it and fixed it and then gave it to her. And then Helga kissed Brainy, and then and then he got harmonica and started playing. It was just classic Brainy. And then, these are some small things I wrote. So, the next thing is Phoebe knows Helga's love. It was very funny to see Helga have, categorized CDs of Arnold and everything. And then Phoebe knowing, because in the show she never knew. Like there were hints. There were a lot of hints. Like in, I believe it was the, I don't know. I think it was one where she broke her. No, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, Phoebe knows that Helga is in love with Arnold. And that's pretty cool, I think. I think having someone else know is very nice to Helga, and it's nice to viewers because we all love Helga. Helga's a great character, and she's very, she's very memorable and relatable. The next thing is that a joke Grandpa tells as Arnold's going up. He's like, "Where is everybody?" And Grandpa's like, "Sorry, short man, I just work here." It's very funny. And then there's, as Arnold signs the thing to go to San Lorenzo, he writes Arnold Shortman, which is a reference to how in the show we never got to know Arnold's last name. In fact, in an episode, Helga's like, "What is his last name?" It was a very fanservice-y thing to put this in, and I like how a lot of these jokes are fanservice-y. And I'm not saying that they hyped it, no, they didn't hype it, but people have been waiting years to see this back, and a little fanservice shows that they care. The next thing is Grandpa's diseases. He goes, "Don't get malaria," or whatever, and it's just hilarious to see him as Arnold's flying away. Then there's Olga's subplot as they go with Eduardo onto the ship. We get Olga's subplot where she's in love with one of the crewmates. It's pretty funny. Like I mentioned, she said, "I'm king of the world." And then Eduardo, or yeah, I guess I should call him Eduardo. Eduardo gives Arnold a green-eyed gift. It was one of these. It was basically what we learned. Okay, I won't spoil anything yet because I'm going in order, but he gives Arnold a kind of like an amulet, and then it glows because Arnold's apparently the chosen one, which is another thing. Arnold's the chosen one in this. And I even like a line by Gerald. He's like, "Why can't I ever be the chosen one?" So yeah, they have that cliche chosen one thing, which I'm okay with. I don't really care about it. And then there's Helga's confession on the top of the ship, which I've already mentioned a lot. I think Arnold's character gets escalated here, but it moves the plot, and later we get the kiss. So I think it's pretty good. Then we get the hike with everyone against Arnold. We get Gerald against Arnold because he didn't tell Gerald the secret, and we get Helga against Arnold because of the love thing. And some characters are okay with Arnold, but yeah, it's just against Arnold because the movie is based around him. If they're gonna find his parents and he's gonna succeed, he might as well deserve some karma for bringing them out here, you know? It kind of feels right. And I know he's been waiting years to see his parents and all that. I know that. So, the next thing is that, the Sombra twist. Yes, they find out Sombra apparently lured them, or I guess it was Eduardo. He had a mustache, and he revealed that he was Sombra, the bad guy of the episode, the movie. And I think it's pretty cool. Actually, I really didn't see that coming. I actually didn't, and I'm glad that they went with this. Like I said in the beginning of the review, lots of fails equals a lot of suspense and a lot of action, which obviously in this kind of movie you obviously like. The next thing is that I really like the gag with Rhonda. She's like, "What's the Wi-Fi password here?" She's like, "Is there Wi-Fi here in this dump?" And he's like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, thank you. What's the password?" He's like, "I won't tell you." She's like, "You monster." And he's like, "Oh, you got it. Go change the password." It was hilarious. I like how they reference Wi-Fi and how kids these days, it's just about Wi-Fi. And yeah, it was really funny. I have to admit, I laughed a lot about that. So they lock all the friends up. Helga's mad, and then they talk about the breakout that they're gonna do. So they have an SOS call to Bob, to Big Bob, Helga's dad, obviously, and they wrote SOS Bob through digits. We all get it. And then Bob and the parents and Grandpa and Grandma come to the airport to go to Arnold in San Lorenzo. So that was a very good call. Then something happened that I wasn't really sure about. So in the on the boat, we saw that Oh, and by the way, the boat crashing scene was really well done. I forgot to write that in, but it was really well done. But Abner, in the boat, he jumped off the boat in a scene because he was scared. Then, in the next scene when Abner comes back, he's at the parents. And, wait, what? How can Abner go from San Lorenzo to the parents' place in just a matter of hours? He can't even do that in a matter of minutes. What pig does that? What pig understands that? We've established that Abner is just a normal pig. He's not anthropomorphic or anything like that. He's just a pig. And for him to go back to Hillwood, the city that Hey Arnold is based upon, is just wrong. Then we get a joke that I laughed at genuinely. Genuinely, I laughed at this joke, and it is the "you guys are still alive" joke. So basically, when Big Bob and Miriam meet with Grandma and Grandpa, they say "you guys are still alive" to emphasize that they're old. It's really, really funny, and it kind of brings back Parents' Day vibes, because that was, I think, the last time that they met. The next thing is Simmons' crazy face. So as they're doing this, they have an animation of Simmons' face and his eyes all droopy, and it's weird. It's really funny. That's why I wrote it down, but it was very funny. Then we get the Arnold and Helga and Gerald subplot where they run, and then they find the green-eyed people. And this is very, very annoying because they keep going, "Arnold, Arnold." It's very, very annoying, which I'll get to later because it's not just the annoying part, it's actually a tribute to the plot. So, the parents meet the trapped kids after the plan, and we go to the green-eyed land with Helga, Gerald, and Arnold. And this is very fan-servicey. People have been wanting to see the Green Eyes for years, and honestly, I really don't like how they presented the Green Eyes. They presented them as kids. I would have really liked it if they were more... I know how this is a kids movie, but this is a Hey Arnold, and I think maybe if they put some kind of aliens or something, it would have been better. I don't know, it's just my personal preference. Then we get a scene where the Sombra actually meant for them to escape so we could track them, which is the most cliche thing to do, but it's actually unexpected, so yeah, whatever. Then we get the rope bridge scene as Sombra takes Arnold from the Green Eyes after a while, and they go on a rope bridge. Basically, Gerald and Helga go on the rope bridge and they fall down, but they hold on, and Arnold and Sombra open this thing with the golden heart in it. So Arnold opens it with the amulet thing, and wait, what? Why would Sombra give Arnold that amulet if it has the ability to make him view the thing? I do realize that it's so Arnold can view the thing when Sombra has caught him, but Sombra could have just kept it. He could have given him some piece of rock that glowed, and it would have seemed as valuable as ever. I guess it's good because it kind of brings back the beginning of the movie. So yeah, whatevs. The next thing is the death of Sombra. So he falls off the cliff because the rope bridge got cut. He falls off. Then we get the actual Eduardo. And this is obviously after the golden heart fell off the bridge. Oh, sorry, my bad. I shouldn't have said that. So, Eduardo, the actual Eduardo, because he just happened to be there, helped Arnold, Gerald, and Helga up, and the Sombra actually comes back. Once again, lots of fails equals suspense and action. They fight him one more time, and the golden heart falls. When the golden heart falls into the bottom of the cliff, the Sombra just falls because why go on if he can't win, right? So then we get something very nice. After the battle, it was very funny when Eduardo said there's a second rock bridge right beside here. Why'd you guys have to come from the rope? It's very, very funny. It's kind of a Butch Hartman joke, to be honest, like the Butch Hartman school of, and then the opposite happens kind of thing. Feels like a Fairly Odd Parents kind of joke. Guys, I'm not kidding here. Then we get an actual thing that moves the plot a lot. We get the parents. The parents are sleeping together with this amulet in their hands. Now, this is one of the deepest things I've ever seen because it is what the entire movie was about. These parents that Arnold was supposed to find. And the fact that he actually finds them is very, very deep. So, he finds the parents, and the eye thing Sombra gave Arnold is, once again, a big mistake because it just helped them do it. So, the parents wake up after Helga gives her locket to Arnold, and this is a very deep scene because Arnold doesn't go too far with it, and Helga's actually sweet in this moment. That is how you get it right. So, it's obvious now that Helga likes Arnold, and it just gives you a good feeling inside. This moment gives me a good feeling inside because the parents are right there. They have to save them, or else it's not a movie unless they don't. And then Helga just gives up her locket because they needed a true heart. I really like the scene a lot. The parents wake up after they put the amulet inside there, and this is one of the deepest scenes I've ever seen. Then we get the most fan servicey thing ever, guys. Arnold and Helga kiss. It's oh my god. I'm so happy, man. Forget reviewing. I'm just gonna go see any fan conspiracies about this couple. Oh, yeah. So touching, man. Alright, I'll get back to the review. Whatever. So, after they kiss, they go back to the actual world. We go to the corner scene one more time as Arnold, Gerald, and Phoebe and Helga run into each other. This time, Phoebe and Gerald hold hands and walk away, and then Arnold takes Helga's hand and they do a joke, but it's so funny and so awesome. I just love it because Helga and Arnold are together, man. It's awesome. It's not even like just saying that they are, but showing that they are is much more deep and good than just saying, well, in the future Helga and Arnold get married because obviously they have to get married because they're like the same character and obviously because they have a crush on each other. No, they actually show it. It gives me a good feeling, and we get the ending at school as the parents walk with Arnold to the school, and they have a good little scene, a good little laugh and everything. It's very sweet, and it makes you feel good for Arnold as he's never had any parents, and it just gives you a good feeling, you know? It's like, Arnold's never had any parents before, it probably makes him feel good to have his parents stand outside the door and say goodbye to him. What a great movie. But wait right there, the review's not done. It's not even close to being done. So, here are my comparisons to the first movie. Which is better and why? I gotta admit, I like the new one way better than the old one. I think this knocks the old one out of the park. This is just a quick comparison. I'm not gonna be like going in depth or anything. But I'm just gonna give some quick things that this movie does better than the other one, and vice versa. So, I have to admit that the love relationship with Helga is much better in this movie than the old movie. I think Arnold was very badly done in that movie, and I think it's way more genuine in this movie, and they actually show how happy they are together, which makes you feel good, because Arnold usually ruins the moment by being Arnold and not liking Helga. Then, we actually get... Okay, so, in terms of better animation, plot, comedy, and references, this movie knocks the old one out of the park. But, in terms of better voice acting and originality at its best, the old one is way better. Once again, the animation in this movie is way better than the old one because of the HDness. The plot of this movie is very good because it involves Arnold's parents and not some random thing about a tree that's going to get knocked down and they have to save it. The third thing is that the comedy in this movie is way better. They include much more comedy, much more subtle jokes, and a ton of references to the old thing, which you wouldn't get in that movie because it's in the middle of the show. Why give references to something that's still going on? It's like if I make a reference to my last video. Why? doesn't really make sense. But the better voice acting in that movie is obviously better because back then they had the original voices for the show and it sounded much better. In this movie, Stinky sounds really weird, which I'll get to in a second because voice acting is right around the corner. And originality, because obviously you can't beat the classics even if you tried your hardest, and this movie really does. But to be honest, I like this one much, much more. Just being original and having better voices is just a pro you get just because you were made in that time. Sure, having better animation is also a thing in that time, but the plot and comedy is much better in this movie, and that's why it wins. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but that's why this one wins that one. Now, let's jump into voice acting. I'm just gonna go through all the characters, and this time I actually mean all the characters, because most of the characters sounded really weird. So Arnold sounds different. I really didn't search his voice actor because they're not really famous. I believe the new one's name is Mason something, but I really like the old Arnold better. This one, he sounds much more like a child, especially when he goes mom, dad. It sounds like he's like 7. And Gerald is different too. Now, Gerald has had a lot of changes, but when they did change him in the show, it was very subtle, and I congratulate them for that, because the episode where they changed the voice actor was called Gerald's Tonsils. And using the excuse of having his tonsils is a very good way to get a new voice actor in charge. And all the new episodes will just have a different voice because, well, an old episode has continuity about how he got his tonsils removed. And we can't remove something as stupid for continuity as him getting his tonsils removed, because why would we? It's not really ethical. The next thing are some of the same characters. Big Bob, Helga, and Phoebe are the same. Now, Big Bob and Helga have really, really unique voices, especially Helga, who was voiced by, I believe she was voiced by Francesca Mary Smith, something like that. And her voice is spectacular and classic, and you cannot get rid of Helga no matter how old she gets, because her voice is very good. You can get rid of Arnold because he's had a lot of voice changes over the years, but changing Helga would be very, very bad, and it would be very noticeable. Phoebe is the same because Phoebe is the sidekick, and I got a behind-the-scenes look at this movie, and we saw that the voice actors for both Phoebe and Helga are staying, and Big Bob, because Big Bob's voice was very, very unique and just added a lot of character to him. I also like how they kept Grandpa's voice because his voice is very funny, and if you remove that, I think I would have rated this movie very badly. And the third thing, or whatever, also Harold and Simmons are the same. Harold, because Harold's voice is very, very unique, and you cannot get rid of that. And Simmons, I really wouldn't have minded if they changed Simmons' voice, but the fact that his voice sounds so eager and optimistic and everything, I think keeping it was the right choice. Also, keeping Patty, Dino, and Rhonda, and Sid, the same voice actors, I think really did do it. Patty, because I really don't care if Patty did it, because she's not really a character. Dino Spumoni had a very, very unique voice because he was a singer, and his voice kind of reminds me of classic 70s singers like Elvis or, just singers in general from the 70s. And then Rhonda, honestly, Rhonda has the voice of very slick and, tacky and everything, and I think keeping that voice was the right thing to do. And Sid has had a few changes over the years, but I think the voice that they kept for him is very naughty, and it's very unique to Sid's, just demeanor. Also, all the boarders except Ernie got a voice change, and Ernie still sounds very different from how he did 15 years ago. I think Mr. Wynn's voice was very spectacular, and same with Oscar Kokoschka, and I think removing them was a bad choice. But I mean, if they brought them back, they would have sounded like Ernie. They would have sounded like 60-year-old men trying to sound like 15 years ago. And yeah, so I think that's kind of weird. And my biggest flaw, I guess, with the voice acting is Stinky. Stinky's voice is very, very off, and it was very unique with his accent. And I think changing it was a very big mistake. And now it's time for the conclusion! Yay! This was my childhood. They didn't screw with it or hype it or anything. It makes me feel good inside, and without a doubt, it is a bright light shining at the end of the tunnel. And I've never said this before, but this is the best Nick movie in a long time. The greedy scumbags working at Nickelodeon don't understand these shows are people's childhoods. You can't do it for the bottom line. Now, shows like Breadwinners, Sanjay and Craig, and all those stupid sitcoms are taking over, and I think they are ruining the roots of the new generation's childhood. Thank God I'm a teen and grew up with shows like SpongeBob, TMNT, Hey Arnold, and Ben 10. Good shows that come around once in a great while. Nickelodeon has been holding this idea and Craig Bartlett back for too long, and giving them full creative control is about time. I genuinely enjoyed this movie and totally recommend it. I give it 10 out of 10. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on this movie and check out my website. I post links, news, and tons of spoilers. The link is in the description below. And as always, be sure to visit the card above for polls and links, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!